he's probably, has phone in one hand or texting and then click, and he goes over here. So just before we went live, Elisa said, "Hey, we're not very far apart if you're in Texas," because she's in Oklahoma, and I know that down in the southern end, high winds. Here in Waco, I think we got some icy mush on the ground in the middle of one night. And then there's Dallas and north of Dallas, airport things going on. Amarillo looking like Antarctica in some of the videos. And I'm so glad you safely traversed, Elisa. Like you said, the roads are good, but then you go into a parking lot. They can't plow or sand or brine, or I think in Oregon they were spraying a kind of beet juice that would somehow warm as it was being sprayed. But they can't do that in the parking lots. So you were able to walk in without going down and having a sore knee or elbow or whatever. I'm really glad you're safe and sound. And Elisa, you said that you've not met any of the gentlemen on the screen before. In fact, you're meeting me for the first time.
Not in person. So I have been following Dr. Cross on LinkedIn, and I have recently connected with other folks, and so I'm extremely happy to be here.
I was like smiling and trying to drink at the same time. So that's it. No more multitasking for me. And so, and my husband knows I'm starting to talk to you. He's got you on screen. And so, Elisa, for the sake of our audience, our future audience, a lot of people click and listen. So it is not a waste of time to spell things out when you want people to know how to get a hold of you or how to get to a link that is going to bring them more information. And a show that I was watching before we began, here was a gentleman who said, I was going to sell Nike tennis shoes. Years later, here I am in charge of a senior living, independent situation. I don't see myself selling any sneakers whatsoever. So when it comes to aging, people are either passing by it or they've got their nose pressed against the window going, I like the way she is handling her challenges. Boy, I hope I'm that wise when I get to that point. I need to tell somebody that that's the way I would prefer that, that they be my personal caregiver, no strangers. And then there's the people who are the flip. I would love to have someone that I don't know to work alongside me and get me ready for the day so that I can spend the rest of the day with people that I do know. And I've heard both strong preferences, and I'm just so glad that I get to host people like you who say we deal with this all the time. This is where we see enrichments needed in longevity. This is where aging has a different perspective now than maybe it did in the past, or maybe we just weren't listening to the right aging people in the past. It was just easy to be younger and think that's what they want. I'm sure that they all, as if we suddenly are suddenly becoming not individuals, but just kind of a group together collective as we age. So I get to say that, turning 65 next month, so that changes trajectory, or at least it used to. So I'm really glad to just talk with people who have all sorts of long-term care involvements. And so, Elisa, I would love for you to introduce yourself to our audience live today, to those who will be listening in the future, and to these three gentlemen, Israel, Barry, and Christopher.
All right. Hello, everybody. Elisa West Cahill. I'm a licensed social worker with an administration and community practice specialty. So there aren't a whole lot of us with with that specialty. Most of us are licensed clinical social workers. So I get to do a lot of focus on program development and community capacity development, kind of thinking, yes, the long game is important and systemic change, but also what can we do right now, individually, collectively, community, to make some changes. We don't have control over everything, but some of the things that we do have control over, it's good to know. And sometimes there is not, well, information equity is an issue. And so a big part of what we're working to do is to elevate awareness about aging and behavioral health, the intersection between the two, as well as a really hearty emphasis on reframing aging. And to your point, Christine, in terms of the language that we use, this whole they, right? And so we really focus on our language is all about the older adults of both today and tomorrow, because life is a process, life is a continuum. And we encourage people, one of the easiest, quickest, fastest things to do is to just become more aware of the language that we use. And so we have a lot of resources when it comes to that. We call it age-informed language and imagery, so that we can get away from some of the so prevalent age negative stereotypes to just, to be more realistic. Aging does tend to be a whole lot more positive than we are led to believe.
True. I was searching through a university building looking for an office, and I asked, one of those desks with the sliding glass window, where would I find the head of gerontology? And they said, well, that's under our behavioral science grouping. And I went, behavioral science, psychology, etc. In that setting, I don't know if it's different, but you mentioned behavioral health. And you, Elisa, just came off an amazing weekend, which again, I'm really glad that you were able to attend and that you had safety in icy weather. And I would say that you were gushing on your post. I don't have the words, but I have to use them because otherwise this post is blank and you don't know why I am so deeply impacted and so honored. So could you talk about that just a bit? Because maybe these gentlemen haven't been able to keep up right to the moment. I don't know.
Sure. Well, and let me, so just quickly, why I was at this event, it was a vet chat, and well, in Midwest City, a city in Oklahoma. But the reason I was invited to be there as a guest is because at the Oklahoma Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services, Aging Services Division, where I work, our vision, which is this is a new thing, our vision truly is to, for all Oklahomans, really everybody, but we're in the state of Oklahoma, so for all Oklahomans to have the opportunity to live and age with behavioral health, which is inclusive of physical health, well-being, social connection, and purpose. And Christine, I was, so this weekend, the vet chat, I grew up in a military family. And so just getting to be there and to kind of merge that part of my life with who I am now as a professional social worker. I mean, it was amazing because the key messages this weekend, we're talking about both possibility. There does tend to be so much more possibility when it comes to aging than we have been led to believe. And truly,
Oops. For just a moment, your voice cut out. Elisa, try speaking again. Not now.
Now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. So the 13 messages, one of them was possibility. There tends to be so much more possibility around aging than we've been led to believe, and how we think and feel about aging. Research shows, Dr. Becca Levy and colleagues, decades, research has been showing it can truly have an impact on an array of our outcomes: cognitive, physical health, behavioral health, and also our lifespan. So both how long we get to live and how well we get to live, however that may look for each one of us. And so that the possibility was one key piece, as well as the message that two of the people who are leading this group really want to convey, which is that there are people who care. There are people out there who care. And so that goes back to one of our other resources that we try to raise awareness about, which is the 3-digit number 988, that all of us at any age and stage can call if we are having, if we are in crisis and having suicidal thoughts, or if we're witnessing that. If there's imminent danger, still 911. But if we're thinking about this, 988. But also for all of those other aspects of life, right? Life, we know, can be wonderful and magical, but it can also be excruciating and devastating. And just sometimes bad days. And so 988 really is a 3-digit, like 911, where we can call and say, do you have 20 minutes? I had a really bad day, or I have a doctor's appointment in a couple weeks and we're going to go over my lab work and I'm scared. Can I talk to you? And so it was the merging of both the military as I was growing up, and then what I get to do now and I'm still just, yeah, so very happy to be here and very happy to be there this weekend at Vet Chat.
Personally significant. Before I go to someone who's been on the screen for a few minutes, hello, Rhonda in Oregon. I want to hear your voice.
Hello, and finally I'm on.
Yay! This is why we do live. Who
Right.
knows? Someday maybe I won't show up and everyone will just carry on without me. It's like, hey, she's not here. We get to talk about whatever we want. Elisa, you answered the question in my mind. What comes out of your mouth and you finally do that final 8 and you can just say, I just want to talk to someone. And they're not going to say, I'm sorry. You need to just, probably, spend time looking up something on Google. It's like, nope, real person. So ready to listen to you. You have been very polite, Barry, Israel, and Christopher. Did one of you want to make a comment specifically about what Elisa's been saying? Looks like Israel's like, yeah, I definitely do. And then Israel, if you would do the same, is just let everyone know more about you besides the fact, dad of 5, and you had time with your family in recent weeks. Yay.
I appreciate that. And like to Elisa's, the points she was making about language, reframing, how we talk about aging, really resonated with me. The language moving away from them, seniors, elderly, to more us, our, older adults, older people. I think, that makes a tremendous difference. Literature shows ageist thoughts began as early as 3 years old. So I know that for sure because, again, like I said, I have a few kids, 8 and under. And, my 4-year-olds, when they hear me make noise when I get up, or when they see the grays in my beard, or, when I just had a birthday in October, they're like, Daddy, you're getting old. And, they do stuff, to mock, but I know they don't mean any harm by it, but these things really do start early on in life. And yeah, go ahead, Christine.
I'm fully agreeing with you.
Oh, yeah.
It's just it isn't good for them. Your kids are future will have a future.
Right.
And for them to not start thinking, wow, I shouldn't be sounding old. I shouldn't be. It's like,
Right.
who even put that together, you know,
Right.
of this sounds old and you shouldn't sound that way? You know, go ahead.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it just takes, people like us sitting here talking amongst each other, chipping away at these things wherever we are. And it's that slow drip of water. Eventually, it's starting to make its way into hopefully, more federal government activities. I already know it is. I looked at ACL's National Strategic Plan for Aging, and it does include these language changes. So one of my hats, besides being a dad of 5 out here in Maryland, go Ravens, by the way, is I'm the president of the National Aging in Place Council. Again, like I feel like I'm just borrowing Elisa's words. It's about bringing generations together. It isn't about 65 and older, this curtain that drops. All of a sudden you're eligible and all of a sudden you're old. It's not that. It's how do we support people that decide to make aging in place decisions, including their caregivers, their family members, friends. It's an us thing. And I think the sooner that we recognize it's an us thing, the more progress we'll make. And an update is we're coming out with another book this year. We have 2 already out there on Amazon. It's about aging in place conversations. This isn't really something that a lot of people think about, despite the overwhelming majority of people in America that want to age in place, but they don't have those conversations. So I think I'll stop there. Happy to be here, and I'm looking forward to hearing from everyone else you have.
Did you say you're the president? And did you used to be the interim president?
Oh man, you really caught me on the details. So yeah, I would like to say that I am the president. Yes, I am enjoying this role. I'm looking forward to taking us to higher heights, and we got a lot of exciting things coming up this year, including our first in-person conference in about 10 years on April 26th. It's called the Age of Innovation Conference, and we got over 70 industry types in our council. So yeah, I'm like to say that was a temporary title.
Wow.
Yeah.
The first of its kind since 10 years ago?
Yeah, we haven't met in person in 10 years.
Met in person.
Yeah.
Oh my.
Our last one got derailed by what was that hurricane? Walter or something? I don't know.
They do have
Can't
names.
keep up.
I always go back to Katrina.
Yeah.
I don't know why that one really sticks. I don't know. Hey, Christopher, are you okay? So
Sure.
Oklahoma, Elisa, Baltimore Ravens,
Right.
for Israel. I have moved from Oregon, where
Right.
Rhonda is, to Texas.
Right.
I honestly can't recall where you are.
That's okay. I am in the great city of Atlanta, Georgia. So I am in the South. I can't, and unfortunately, not go Falcons this year. But I am a Ravens fan as well too. So go Ravens. Absolutely. So I'm excited to be a part of this conversation as well too. And my background is really from a technology perspective. I've had the opportunity to serve as a CIO for a large healthcare system here in Atlanta, and for multiple healthcare systems across the country, including a PACE organization out of California as well too. So I've had the opportunity to work specifically with entities that were focused on managing seniors as well. And as you look at what's happening with the silver economy, because it is an economy, when you think about every day 10,000 people are turning 65 for the next 2 decades plus. And by 2050, 1/4 of the world's population will be over 65 years of age. This demographic is going to have a profound impact on every economy across the globe. You look at countries like China, for example, there's 1 billion people there. And by 2050, 500 million people will be over 65. That's going to have a huge impact on their community, on their economy, on the resources. In fact, they've even stopped allowing people to adopt kids from China now because they won't have the workforce needed in the next 50 years to support this segment of the population, or just the economy in general. Not to mention you've got countries like Japan and Korea and UK and others that are starting to raise the retirement age as well too, just because of the lack of resources. And then when you look at the healthcare in general, the fact that we've got, again, the baby boomers and the Gen X's, the last baby boomers, and I'm a part of that group. So I just turned 60 myself this past year. And the first Gen Xers will now move into their 60s this year. And so you've got this wave of folks who are now moving into their silver years. And we're not replacing enough healthcare providers to support this growing population, healthcare, behavioral health, geriatric care, specialty care, et cetera, not to mention all the comorbidity issues that we're having to manage as these people age. And so how we're going to get our arms around what they call the silver tsunami, and that is this multitude of people who are moving into the senior years, but we don't have enough resources and an economic base to support them. Well, technology is going to be hopefully part of that equation to help try to get our arms around that.
Yeah.
Things like virtual care and telemedicine, mobile technologies, robotics, AI and machine learning are going to have a direct impact on how we start to manage aging in place. And interesting enough, I was at a conference up in Canada, Emboussage, which was focused around technologies around aging. It's not just about computers, and it's not just about iPhone watches and things of that nature. It's clothing, it's it's shoes, it's glasses, it's all sorts of things that are going to impact how we age, and we as baby boomers and Gen Xers also want to live independent lifestyles. We don't want to be moved into long-term care facilities or we used to call old folks homes. We want to age at home. We want to stay as independent as we can, and I think we're recognizing the power of aging as healthy as we can as well too. And then how do you use technologies to help monitor, manage, and predict potential issues that could have a catastrophic impact on a person's health if it's not caught early enough. And so I'm excited about the possibilities that we see in the use of technology to support us as we age in place, and not only just the physical aspect, but our mental health as well, being able to communicate with loved ones and our community of people if we can't get out and we can't, because one of the biggest challenges you have when you age is your inability to travel, to drive yourself to locations, and so being able to communicate with people virtually is going to have a huge impact on mental health as well, not to mention these other technologies around just general virtual care.
I'll say I wonder, because I don't want to back you into a corner to have to come up with something, but I wonder how much of the conversation of those developing technology is about, and this, we definitely want to push this to the forefront, or we definitely want to create a culture of self advocacy, and this is how I will use this
Mhm.
kind of technology to make sure that I can remain independently in charge
Mhm.
of my continuing health, retaining health, not
Yes.
just if, if things start going bad,
Right.
but how do I grab this and morph it, or, whatever, turn the little gadgets so
Mhm.
that it will stay ahead of my, just those slight indicators of
Mhm.
change in social habits and change, all those things that I call dominoes when they set up
Sure.
the dominoes. I that's what I'm wondering. So I'm not putting it as a question, but I think of
But
myself.
yeah.
I'm the perfect. Do you have the training that you feel that you can use this? Do you understand all the possibilities so that it's like, wow, I've really slacked off on my social, which is going to affect my mental health, my
Cognitive
behavioral
impact.
health.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I need to crank that up.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's interesting. Technology, IT is the way I position it, is really the next utility, right? When you think about any business, any entity, it's almost impossible to run one without electricity. It's almost impossible to run most businesses without plumbing and water. And now it's almost impossible to run one without information technology. Every business, clinical, financial, personal decision has a IT component built into it. So by default, we are now digital natives. We actually absolutely depend on technology to impact almost every part of our life today. And I do think that we're becoming much more smarter consumers and more smarter patients, and realizing that it's about the holistic approach to care. And it's not just about episodic care. And so we're moving away from the term, this term healthcare. We're focusing more on the health now than just the care side, where I think even the industry has recognized that it's unsustainable to continue to just focus purely on the care side when healthcare is about 18, almost 19% GDP. And if it gets well above 20, 22% or so, it'll be unsustainable. There will be no one that'll be able to afford general healthcare themselves except the very rich. And we won't be able to survive as an economy if we don't get our arms around how we take better care of ourselves. And again, looking at it from a holistic perspective, it's not just about taking this medication to reduce my diabetes, but also how does my mental health have an impact on my blood pressure? Am I stressing out about things at home, whether it's trying to pay the bills or sandwich generation, dealing with the older parents and the younger kids and all of that. And so I do think we're becoming much more informed consumers and recognizing that we have to treat the whole of the body. And that includes not only just the physical component, but the mental and spiritual components that directly impact our overall health as well, too. And the beauty about what I'm seeing happening in this silver economy is that it's not just the young people developing the technologies. Again, these conferences that I've recently attended, you've got people my age, seniors and older, who are building technology specifically for their communities as well. I met a gentleman, for example, that designed a game that was focused around dementia and how that game could help improve mental acuity. He was in his mid-60s, and another man who was dealing with dementia, and he was a part of a test pilot program as well too. So we're not just allowing the younger generations to create these technologies and solutions for us. We're actively involved in that process, and I think that's what's exciting about it. It takes a village to move these things forward. I'm sorry, I don't want to dominate all the conversation either, but.
Well, I'll just say Roger Anunsen, Anunsen, Roger Anunsen. You might want to peek in on him too, because I like to say that he was asked to speak at the Smithsonian several decades back and then was asked to come again because he was seeing things. I better not dominate either. He was seeing things and putting words around it that someone went, okay, that's new. You're talking about brain health instead of what are we going to do when it's episodic. And he's been on my show a number of times too, but just peeking in on him because I'm thinking maybe 5 years beyond my age at this point.
Right.
So he's got all of this. I mean, talk about perspective. Talk about that he's, his own experiences through the decades. So there's a recommendation. And we are at a kind of a halfway point, and I'm like, okay, I better say hello to Barry again before he goes, oh, you've been listening. And again, you're just, it's so, I am so grateful that people are willing to talk about the things that I felt privileged when I was around 96-year-olds as a hired assistant. And I learned so much from them. And I thought, this shouldn't just go away. This shouldn't just be packed in my brain. I was always enriched. I was always better informed. It's like, how can I do this for others? And you folks are the ones making that possible. So Barry, you wrote a book, and you might have done something else too.
Yeah, so I'm a Philly guy. I grew up in New York City, but I've been living in Philly for a long time. So go Eagles. I grew up in a family where, while I was a teenager, my dad had brain cancer, and that my family went through some very, very hard times before my dad died, and then afterwards. But it taught me very early on that how much illness is a family experience rather than an individual experience. And my whole career now as a clinical psychologist has been about supporting family caregivers to support our older adults as well as younger people as well, but primarily older adults. So I wear 3 hats nowadays. I am a practicing clinical psychologist. I see lots of people in their 70s, 80s, and 90s, and I see lots of family caregivers. So today I've seen 3 people, 2 of them in their 70s, one woman in her 30s caring for her mother with Parkinson's disease, another person taking care of her husband with cancer, and then a third person who herself has very significant chronic pain and other health issues. That's a pretty typical day for me. I also have worked for about 6 years as a healthcare consultant for a national healthcare consulting firm called Health Management Associates, where I'm working on the larger system level, and I'm helping health plans. I'm going to meet in a little while with the largest Medicaid plan in the country to talk with them about their family caregiver support services that they're offering their members. I work with counties and states around aging services plans, master plans for aging. It's been a lot of fun because that's not just about psychology. That's about transportation and food and helping people have opportunities to volunteer in various places. I mean, the whole gamut of things that are part of a community or a state to help people age in place and live really meaningful and fulfilling lives. And then the third thing I do is what you mentioned is before I became a psychologist, I was a journalist, and I've always wanted to be a world famous writer. So that didn't exactly happen, but I've written 4 books now, 3 of them on family caregiving, one on aging, one on soothing marriage for people in over 50, just some of the ways marriages change. And I also have been writing a self-help column on the AARP website for about 11 years now, and I continue to do that either monthly or bi-monthly. So a lot of the red thread here, the common element is that it's all about supporting family members and just doing it in different forums. But I love the conversation we're having today. I'm really grateful, Christine, for the invitation. I mean, certainly I'm all about aging in place, and technology is integral to whatever we do. And as I think Christopher is pointing out, it's not just about kind of high-tech stuff that is very intimidating. It's about the basic environmental design. It's about the clothing we wear. It's about the texture of our lives, and how technology can really provide monitoring services, can provide all sorts of supports that enable people to age in place. So I'm in the right place. And maybe my area of expertise here would be just the family component, helping family members who want to do a good job, do that good job, and not feel overburdened, and not feel like they're not take over an older adult's life, and also not be in constant conflict with that older adult. So that's a lot of what I do.
Thank you. I did not recall about your dad and where you were in life during that moment. And I do keep meeting people who say, at age 9, this is what life became. At age 21, I didn't know that I would be a primary caregiver for more than one person. And to hear people like you, Barry, who go on to help others and become proficient and certified, and like you said, even today you're meeting with people, you know what is coloring their life, you know how rough the texture of their life is right now. But then there's everything else. There's just relationships. When you are caregiving, relationships can seem to vaporize, because here's a person going, I don't know what to do with your adventure with Lewy body, with this person that you love. I don't know where to put it. I don't know what to say. I'm uncomfortable, whatever it is that's going on inside of someone. And I point at myself. I didn't understand so much before this era of my life that it was easy to think, this isn't, I don't know what to do with this. So you end up falling silent. So I'm so grateful that you said that. You also mentioned Parkinson's. And if the person would feel hope and feel camaraderie with others, there's a gentleman named George Ackerman. He's got PhD and other alphabet letters after his name, and he has been relentless with everything Parkinson's up to Capitol Hill, and relentless in the most gentle manner for his own mother, who he cared for until she passed. And also, I don't know if essential tremors in the hands is even something that would come up, but a previous guest also on Aging Better Network, Aspects of Aging, developed Steadywear, STEDIWEAR, as in wear. That is based on the technology under buildings where they cannot have any movement. Speaking of technology, we cannot work with these tiny, tiny, very precise pieces of technology if there's any tremor in the earth, if there's even the slightest earthquake technology under buildings or under rooms, and has brought it down to something just a little thicker than an air hockey puck. And it's something that's placed on the hand. And I'm just putting those two out because I hear something and I think, oh, I know about that. And I actually can direct you to those possibilities. So I wanted to make sure that I brought those forward. And there's so much more that I want to hear from you as well. Rhonda, I'm just looking at you right now. You look like you're at work,
I am.
and you're somewhere in the Rogue River Valley, which
Correct.
is more southern Oregon. Which community?
It's Medford, Oregon. Just to put it into perspective, we almost border like the California border. We're that close.
Exactly.
So the windows, you can almost look out the windows and see part of our 700,000 pear trees out there.
Mm.
Your pear trees. Ah! And this is okay. Do I have it right that you've been interacting with Zach Demopoulos?
Yes.
Okay. And someone I haven't met on my screen, Esquire, Archer, that they have combined. So here you are with thousands of pear trees, and we're talking about aging. So go ahead and weave that together, because you're good at it. So I totally trust you. You could just run with this right now.
So I'm not good at short stories, but I'll try. So I've been at Harry and David going on 38 years. 38 years this past October. And what I do is I head up our experiential marketing and sponsorships, charitable giving, that type of thing. We have retail stores throughout the state, so I do the retail marketing. But the where this all came about is our founder, Jim McCann. So we're owned by 1-800-Flowers. Jim McCann is a huge supporter of everything we do to help take care of our employees. So him and our senior vice president of marketing thought 2 years ago in 2022, November of 2022, during National Family Caregivers Month, said, Rhonda, we'd like you to go to the Care Colloquium Conference. It's a 3-day conference in Roanoke, Virginia. And what that was about was really more about how can Harry and David be in the gift giving. We are in the gift giving space, but how can we own that gifts for caregivers, if you will, and create gifts for caregivers. So I went to this conference, 3-day conference. I immersed myself in everything 3-day. And these were folks, and some of you, so this is, not my expertise. I am not the professional in the care economy space, but I've learned a great deal, let me tell you. So these were folks in the care economy space that some were still taking care of loved ones, and others had gone on to develop new tools and techniques to help those coming in. So I met quite a few people, and and Zach, I met Zach there. I still have 76 contacts that I still work with. But immersing myself in everything, I came home, I wrote a 9-page recap. And the very first thing I said is we need to practice what we're preaching internally first. And what that meant was, how many employees do we actually have in the workforce that are working full time and going home and taking care of a loved one, and no one even knows about it? How do we support those folks? And we're talking, we have upwards of like 36 plus, depending on the season, 1,000 employees across all of our brands nationwide. Harry and David is the largest brand out of all of them. So even Harry and David, compared to all the rest, we're still the biggest one. So we have the biggest workforce here, but we're still out, spaced throughout the United States. So how do we do that, A? And how do we approach those employees if they don't even really define themselves as a caregiver? I mean, caregivers themselves don't even define as a caregiver. So that was a big takeaway. I met Debbie Howard. I don't know if any of you have met Debbie Howard. Okay, so her and I are like this now for the past 3 years. We've done a lot of things together. I love her dearly. I had her come in and train about 17 of our HR professionals across the enterprise on specifically looking at what HR resources we have and what can we, not to rewrite the will, but what can we do to define those a little bit further that would help those employees and give them an opportunity for resources. So we did a lot of that. And so that was in 2022. 2023, I created, I'm sure everyone has heard about employee resource groups. We have 4 of them already that we use. I mean, they're great platforms. We don't use them for recruiting tools. We really use them internally. They're great. And so this one I created, it's called Caregivers and Allies Responding with Empathy. So CARE for short. And it started out with, here's our CARE, ERG for short. All of our resources will be included in that CARE, ERG. But again, how do we approach our employees to get them to understand, oh, that's me? So we had, with Jim McCann's support, him and I did, in that November, we did a town hall. We do a town hall across all of our enterprise, and we kicked it off then. And then we really talked about personal experiences. So who knew this would even happen? But I was one of those hidden employees that, so 2 years ago, I was doing, care for my dad. My dad lived 21 miles out. He had renal kidney failure, and he was just kind of going down, and, it was over multiple, months. He was starting to get worse, but I would drive out. So we live in Medford. That's 21 miles out in the country. I would drive out, pick him up, bring him in for his dialysis, take him back out, come back in. And then during the other 2 days that he came in, then just reaching out and having some relatives try to bring him in. But then my mother, then that started with my mother. So then my parents were separated. So I was trying to do care for my mother. And as an employee, you don't talk about it in the workforce. You do it because you love your loved ones and you want to help them, and you do what you can to go back to work and make up whatever you missed. So that was my life. And then when that happened with the CARE ERG, I had so much to share. It's like, who knew I would be the one doing this? So I also have 2 leads, and we have multiple people across the brands that help support as well. But this the approach then to our employees is just conversation. So for me to be able to say, I was one of those people, was taking care of my dad, taking care of my mom. They both passed away 2 years ago. My brother passed away in between that time, so I did some stuff to help him. And it's just all those experiences that you have that you can share with people walking down the hall, no matter what organization you're in, and you start having a conversation like that, then you start hearing everybody else's conversation. So so what we do is, what kind of technology-based, and not even technology-based, what can we do to for our employees to help keep them in the workforce? So one of the things that we did immediately was we partnered with Torchlight. And I don't know if anyone's ever heard of Torchlight. It would have been a huge benefit for me, but it was too late. Both my parents had already passed, but it's a really cool tool for employees to quickly put in. So I put my dad in, I put my mom in, and it's very private. Even if you leave the corporation, you still continue to have access to it. And certain things will drop down, like, have you tried this? Have you tried that? And things that people don't think about is having that hard conversation with your parents about wills and those type of things. Those will populate. And as you all know, when you're in the moment of caring for someone, you don't think of that stuff. You're just trying to get through so that you can go home and take care of the rest of your family. And then we have other things now. We have Talkspace, where you can talk with a psychologist on a personal or a professional basis. We we cover that. We have so many things now that we do for our employees, and working with their supervisors, because then how do you do that for employees that are not salaried, that are hourly? How do we help those folks? We have a lot of employees that come in that work in production, that might work in our production, or out in the fields, harvesting pears or peaches, or maybe they're in the bakery candy kitchen. So everyone matters. And so we've developed so many new systems and have things in place where we can help people, and it's amazing. And a lot of little things like, and since we've done that, we have speakers come on. So I've used quite a few of the speakers from the CARE Colloquium conference. Of course, Debbie and Zach and so many others. And then other people, other platforms like United Way. There's United Ways across the whole United States. People don't realize the breadth of information that they have to help, at least, send you to someone that can help and support you.
Oh, Torchlight, is that local or is that national?
Yeah, it's national. It's a national.
Great. So it's a tool that anyone can put their fingers on if they know that it exists. So you were sent 1-800-Flowers, Harry and David, you were sent to the colloquium thinking gifting,
and we do have
encouragement
a
for
full-on
caregivers. And you came back going, I have empathy for what it's like to try to do both. People ask you, what do you do? And it's like, right now, I get dad to dialysis. But I think what you want to know is, how do I run my office at Harry and David? And you understand, you have empathy for the person who's just split, and you can say you're safe. It's okay to say, I have two things pulling on me, and we have resources. Employment Resource Group. I mean, there's so many things that you have changed, and the leadership that you answer to has said, yes, you're right. Oh my goodness, let's do it.
Yeah, Jim McCann, going back to him, he has a podcast called Celebrations Chatter. And so we've had a lot of podcasts, him and I, with others, such as Zach and Debbie and other folks. So if you go out and look at Celebrations Chatter, you can find it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or his Celebrations Chatter website. But it does matter. And it starts with leadership, right? It starts with leadership. Leadership has to embrace it and be involved, so that as it trickles down, people know that they have support.
This is a really good time for me to say it to all 5 of you. Besides, thank you. Besides, an hour is never enough to make sure that people know how they could access the information that you've given today, or how they can get to you, because this person might be driving and doing very well at not looking at their devices, and they're hearing these things and they're like, I'm in leadership. How do I get on board? Who do I go to understand how to even start saying to people, is this taking part of your day? And you love them, so of course you're going to do it. But do you feel like you can't talk about it at work? Whatever it is. So I'm going to start with Rhonda and go around up to Israel, Elisa, Christopher, and Barry, and give you each a chance to actually speak out loud what is available on the screen. So, and it's only because of time. I want to know more, and I want you all to be able to talk with each other. Rhonda, go right ahead.
Yeah, so information for our actual CARE ERG is internal only, so we don't share that externally. But we do have a full-on now dedicated page for gifts for caregivers. And we do offer 15% off if you use the discount CARE. And that's just for loved ones, for anyone that wants to use it. But I think the biggest thing, the overarching thing that I would like to share is, talk to your leadership team, let them know how important this is if they don't already. Going back to Debbie Howard and I, we attended the Health Benefits Nation where folks were there from HR teams and just learning, looking at what options are out there for healthcare before they signed up in January. And one of the things that I was pushing was have something for your caregivers, whatever that is. Start that conversation now. And it starts with leadership, because when leadership, when they're on board, then it just makes it easier for all the employees to come and say, I have to take my parent to a 15-minute appointment, and a 15-minute appointment turns out to be 2 hours. So it's worth it. And I know here internally and across our brands, it's made a huge difference. And here we are going on 3 years of it now, and it's been great. We just continue to build it.
Yeah, more than employee retention, that's my person. I love the way that they do their job, because they make everyone else glad that they came to work, and they've been so dedicated to us. Wow, now we get to turn that around and show our dedication to that individual who processes the pears or is in the candy room. Oh my goodness, I've got to stop there someday. Israel, yeah.
I was just going to say, it really goes back to, and I think we can all agree, it all goes back to Rosalind Carter's quote, and I'll just read it verbatim. There are only 4 kinds of people in the world: those who have been caregivers, those who are currently caregivers, those who will be caregivers, and those who will need caregivers.
Wonderful. Israel, your turn. Yeah.
Yep. You can find us on nationalaginginplace.org. NAIPC is what we go by. You could also type in NAIPC on LinkedIn. And if you need to reach me directly, you can type in Israel, ISRAEL, at aginplace.org.
At aginplace.org.
Yep.
Wonderful. Elisa, how about you? And we're not able to hear you, so I'm going to come back to you. Christopher, let's go to you. Sure. And she'll do whatever worked last time. It worked.
Sounds good. It's real simple. You can reach us via our website, which is IOTech Consulting.com. I'm also available on LinkedIn, Christopher Cunny. You can find me there. And then actually, I host a podcast as well, too. It's called Straight Outta Health IT. I'd love to have all of you on at some point to talk about your specific topics. It's not just about IT, it's about all the things we've been covering as well, too. Would love to have you on as guest as well. And you can reach me at christopher.cunny@iotechconsulting.com. I do have to apologize. I have a hard stop. I've got to facilitate another meeting, so I'm going to have to drop.
Absolutely. And I'm going to repeat that again. Straight out of health. Thank you, Christy. Health. HEALTH.
Absolutely. Just a little more ghetto than that, though. It's straight outta.
Outa.
Health IT. Yes.
Have a great next meeting. Thank you so much.
Take care.
And
Bye-bye.
Bear, you may have a hard stop coming up too, because you are there for the most important reason, and that is the person who is walking into your office.
Yeah, I do have a hard stop, but I'll be fast. My book website is love and meaning, all one word.com. I work for a national healthcare consulting firm called Health Management Associates. I can always be found at Health Management Associates, Barry Jacobs. And I also am very active in LinkedIn. Barry Jacobs is the name. And really thank you for the opportunity to be here today, and really great to hear from everybody.
Thank you so much. Love and meaning. Who would not need that? At every age, I'm going to say, but relationships. I often say do you watch TV shows that don't have a relationship as really what it's about, whether it's an outer space show or, back in time or some future show, whatever it is, except maybe National Geographic where you're watching the lemmings jumping or something.
The lemmings have their own relationships, right?
That's
and,
true.
We have
Yeah,
relationships
and we
with them
feel
too,
for
so.
them. We're like, please, please don't reject the little baby. So
Anyway, good to see everybody. I'm going to run.
Thank you. Thank you. Alisa, if we can hear you, then we are ending beautifully.
Okay. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Excellent. So if you search online at Oklahoma Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services, Aging Services, or the acronym, which is ODMHSAS, Aging Services, it will take you to our page, which shares a little bit about our why and our how, as well as takes you to additional resources, which talks about aging, behavioral health, and that very important reframing aging, because we all learn information differently, right? Some classes, checklists, podcasts, TED Talks, books, all of those things, because we do all something very important to keep in mind is that, as Dr. Tracy Gendron states pretty early on in a recent book, is that while aging is universal, it is not uniform. And as we get older, we do have more resilience, and we do tend to also have experienced better behavioral health, and we can be at increased risk. And so we need to know what the facts are instead of what kind of says.
And you went quiet again. So I don't know what is unplugging. It's, besides guessing, I love the way you say yet, but, and. I love what you said because I've said you do age on your own, but you really never age alone. Your aging is going to impact another person. And if I thought, you know what, I have no family, I have no friends, I'm just going to age the way that I am, and they can just find my, bones in the future or something, that's not going to happen. There will always be that person down the street who has seen you somewhere and goes, I need to do something for that person. And you want to make sure that you can advocate for yourself. This is the way that I choose to be, because there will always be someone who is looking and caring and wondering and has empathy and doesn't think that you should have to go it alone. But you do need to be your own advocate. Hey, we're down to 2 people, Quiet Alisa, and I'm going to spell this out. Alisa is 1 L, Alisa. In the center is West, and then it's capital CAHILL, which I think of as Cahill. Yes. Oh, you're back on. And so if someone can't remember, Oklahoma Department of Health, Mental Substance Abuse, they can look for you on LinkedIn and they will see the whole thing right there and be able to click right into it. So, and Rhonda had to go too, because she's got another thing that she's doing right and wonderful in her world.
And Christine, if I may, I know we're almost out of time, but just as one example of one of those myths that that we're working so hard to dispel, that the webpage has all of this information along with those links and the podcasts and such. For example, just one of the many, depression is not a normal part of any age. And so there are resources, supports, treatments, 988. There are people out there who care.
All right. Big red circle and a red slash through it when someone says, well, at your age, you just have to expect that, sadness is just going to weigh more heavily, especially as you go on living. But at your age, that probably won't be long. Big red circle, big red slash. If you're experiencing depression, the number of birthday candles is not part of the equation. So,
Thank
yay. And of course, Dr. Cross had to go too. Sure, we're over time. Bless the heart of my husband. I'm going to wave goodbye and thank you so much.
you, Christine.